to everybody out there. This is another episode of Black in the Maritimes. This is my lovely co-host.
Hey, I'm Hillary.
And my name is Clinton Davis. For the first time in Black in the Maritimes history, I believe, Fidel is absent from an episode. So this is the first episode in about 5 years. He is enjoying his last day down in the Dominican Republic, spending some time with fam. So we thought we'd go at it and do this one alone. We'll start off doing something we haven't done in a while, and that is just, tell the listeners out there a little bit about ourselves. People who tune in, they hear us speak from week to week, but since some sort of our introductory episodes, which are about an hour and a half long, you can go back over the years and find those. People don't really know who we are. So Hillary, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are?
Hillary, who are you? Hillary, 27. I've been telling the world that I'm bisexual, but I think I recently had a revelation that I'm actually pansexual because I also find trans people attractive. So why am I limiting myself? So you heard that here, I guess, first. Cat mom, living in Toronto, mixed Senegalese, Acadian, working in communications as my career for the almost 2 full years now. Been in my current role for almost 5 months though. On Friday, I will be celebrating 2 years completely sober from drugs, and I'm friggin' pumped about that. We'll probably cry a lot on Friday. And what else? Kid of a single mom, just out here doing her best, living that podcast life. I think that's it. I think that's what's important about me. Clinton, what's important about you?
I'm sure there's a whole lot more to you, and I'm sure I'm going to leave out a lot about myself. I really need to practice talking about myself more, but I'll give this a go. I'm a Torontonian raised interracial individual who, grew up and had a great life in Toronto and moved out to New Brunswick about 11 years ago. And now I still have a pretty good life. There's been so many downs and ups and roller coasters and crazy stuff. I won't say my age, but I've lived a long and crazy complex life full of drama and awesomeness and trials and tribulations. And here we are. I'm a family man, serial entrepreneur for sure, business owner with about 5 projects on the go, lifelong musician, into real estate a bit. Something I've never mentioned, I'm like a big science and technology nerd. I love tech and science, sci-fi, and I'm a dad of 6. So I have a pretty busy life, and we try to keep it all balanced. I live on a farm now. I moved out to the country. And yeah, my life's been, working in the bar industry, like fine dining restaurants, because that's what all musicians and actors and everything do when you live in Toronto. I didn't go to university, so it was a lot of school of hard knocks for me. And yeah, but still come from, a good family, a Black mom, Black dad, white mom, who did live in Jamaica for 8 years. Growing up in Toronto was interesting though, because it was hard to identify myself. People who didn't know me didn't necessarily assume right away I was Black or white, which I'm obviously not visually. People would ask me if I'm Cuban, Puerto Rican, Mexican, Somalian, Ethiopian, Eritrean, and then sometimes Jamaican, Middle Eastern, from Iraq, everything. So it was really crazy. Yeah, I mean, it depends on what my hairstyle would be, what I was wearing. If I was bald, it would be hard to tell. That's a little bit about me. I hope I covered a few things. And yeah, that's me.
Definitely said more than what I knew about. And I will say, I've also, since moving to Toronto while working in Shoppers, a lot of different women would come in and ask if I was Ethiopian as well, because of my specific skin tone. And then they would all be like, oh, Senegalese, that makes sense. And I'd be like, okay. I have no idea, but thank you.
It's still that oddness when they find out and they're like, oh, that's what you are. And now I think I know something about you because I know where you're from.
Yes.
Yeah, I imagine growing up in New Brunswick for you, people just assumed you were Black.
It was, yeah, the conversation was always like, it was instantly black card. No one cared about mixed, but then also always coupled with the age of my mom, since she gave birth to me at 43. So it was also, is this your grandmother? Did she adopt you? On top of being black. So there was like ageism mixed in with a hint of the racism, which added a weird dimension, because I think that made my mom even more reluctant to talk about it. I don't know if she felt a certain kind of shame or like embarrassedness about how old she was when she gave birth. But yeah, people just, no one ever was like, had any regionalisms associated with my skin tone. It was just like, oh, you're black. And I was like, yes. Thank you.
Interesting, because I've heard you talk a lot about how people associated you growing up, and you will always bring into it your mother. So is this like early childhood? Like, because you say coupled with the fact that I had an older mother, but strangers and people you just met wouldn't know that, or you wouldn't always be with your mom. I guess that was, you were with your mom a lot when you were younger, so there was that association. Wait, what about when you got into your teen years, when you just met people? Did they just assume you were black, or did they ask?
I guess
were they
so.
Curious about? Mm-hmm.
I think what you're forgetting is the fact that my mom Stockholm syndromed me and was obsessed with me, and I was
school.
What?
And worked at your school.
And worked at my school. So everybody, right. Yeah. Everyone who was a colleague of my mom would ask like about adoption or how she met my dad, and that whole admittedly very weird story, and wanted to know. Even before that, my godmother was my 8th grade teacher, so they wanted to sort of know how my godmother had a black goddaughter, since we were so few in the city at the time. And I think that also seemed weird to my godmother's colleagues before they were also my mom's colleagues. And then when I went to high school, like a lot of the kids just came with me. It was the same, a lot of the same class, I would say. I don't know. I don't remember a lot of the kids that I met when I started at Trimble saying anything other than like, you're black, not asking about like where from. I remember all these weird, like the weird jokes and Oreo and like all these weird terms. And then everyone wanting to be able to get an N-word pass and saying stuff like that. People joking that I had been born in the backseat of a car one time. Kid drew swastika on my eraser and then had to bake me cookies in the 3rd grade. Which his mom baked me the cookies, like he wasn't baking the fucking cookies, but okay.
Oh, his mom made him do that to apologize.
Yeah, the apology was he showed up the next day with a plate of cookies, and then I just remember my mom being like, you know damn fucking well that was Karen and that wasn't this kid. And I was like, yeah, but we have cookies now. Like, I was pumped.
Easier for the to get cookies. Over it.
Yeah.
So interesting, because again, to listeners who don't know, Hillary and I grew up in different provinces, but we both had a black father and a white mother. I was lucky enough to grow up with both my parents in our home with my siblings, and I grew up in a neighborhood that I can, like, right off the top of my bat, I can think of people from 12 different countries that lived there. I guess my schools were always multicultural, but probably mostly white people still. And even in my older years, you know how you have a lot of people on your Facebook from your younger days. Like, I'm learning that these people that I knew throughout most of my early life were from so many more countries than I even imagined. And it's just something I didn't think about as a child or teenager. I definitely had, I think I have some racist comments in my yearbooks as well. And when you're like sometimes black, but probably an interracial kid, you don't necessarily know where you fit in high school, and you kind of hang out with, I don't know about you, black kids a bit, the white kids. I know I bounced from all kinds of different circles, from like the hippies to the cool kids to the nerds to the potheads and just stuff like that. So I think more so than other kids, when you're an interracial person, trying to find out who you are becomes a whole different dynamic.